sorry. I've decided I'm going to move the camera after I hit go live, but that's just annoying. Well, that's still annoying, but we'll work with it. It's not annoying to you, it's just annoying to us.
So we were asked a few questions we want to keep answering in the next few lives. So if you have any questions for us, send them to us, and we'll turn the answers that come to us into future lives.
Yes. So
the question we were asked was, when you make a really big mistake whilst parenting and there isn't any physical support around you, so you bring some space to the situation, is the only thing to do to apologise to your child and to yourself? And we wanted to bring, well, a fair few things to that. We wanted to talk about apologies, and because that's a very applicable part of it, but also talk about when you apologise and what you do beforehand, and kind of what kind of space you're in before you apologise, and also around yourself and your part in that, and how to actually connect with your own needs around that as well, because if you're only focusing on your child, then it gets pretty tricky and it will just keep repeating itself.
Yeah. And before you can reconnect outwards with another person, which is probably what you want to do after you do something you really regret, you want to recreate connection between you and your child, you need to reconnect with yourself first, so that you are really in an anchored space and that what you say will really land. If you've got a whole heap of stuff still going on within and you actually don't even know what it is, like, you don't have to have it all healed and worked out, etc., but you have to be aware of what's moving within you. So you actually do need to bring yourself into the equation in all of this.
We've actually talked about that a fair bit lately, but it's definitely about connecting with your own needs, your own feelings and your own needs. We'll probably say that so many times because it's such a foundational thing to do.
Yeah. And when it comes to feeling like we've screwed up, a huge piece in the self-work here is not falling into working with a more positive solution than just blaming, shaming and guilting ourselves, because that's often naturally where we go when we really screw up. It's like, oh, how could I, and what have I done, and we sort of fall into that pit of self-blame and guilt.
Yeah, and that's not something you're wanting to bring to your children either. You don't want to bring an apology to your children from a place of, I'm such a terrible mum, I'm sorry, I never want to do this again. Like, that's not the kind of energy you want to bring. You want to bring the energy of like an apology that comes from, yeah, my needs matter and your needs matter, and I totally didn't express mine in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll move to the apology, the actual how you do a good apology in a minute. Let's do the inner work first.
Yeah. So as we've said in other lives, tune into what you're feeling and what you're needing. Anytime, like as soon as you've noticed that you've screwed up, the default is to go back to like, well, what am I feeling? What am I needing? Before you go to what they might be feeling, what they might be needing, just what's moving for me. And it's probably multiple things. It's probably, there is probably going to be some guilt and some regret and some blah, and there's also going to be some like, well, I'm feeling really pissed off, or like there's going to be a whole range of stuff that's going on, and you want to acknowledge all of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the blame and shame piece, so acknowledge what you're feeling, notice it, and there is actually a space here that's super important, and it might actually feel difficult. We'll have to talk about how best to do it, but you need to forgive yourself. Before you ask your child to forgive you or anything like that, you need to come to a place of compassion for yourself.
I find a really easy way to do that is to remember that whenever I'm acting less than ideal and less than really conscious, it's usually a younger part of me that is running the show. Yeah. Like a little child in me has gotten really, really loud and had a tantrum.
Yeah.
And started battling with my kids or just letting it rip at my kids. So remembering that there's a little child inside me, and that little child has really valid needs and really valid feelings, and just like I want to reconnect with my own children and I want to hear their needs and I want to let them know that they're okay, the same goes for the child inside me. The same for you. So parent the inner child first.
Yes.
Let her know that her needs matter and that you're here for her, and from there you go to your children.
Hi everyone joining. Good morning. So parent your inner child first. And this might only be in the moment. This isn't like, sometimes you don't have any opportunity to go and find space, and that's fine. But rather than heaping a ton of blame and guilt on yourself, you need to come to a place of a bit of compassion, of forgiveness for yourself. And that's not to say that you didn't do something you really regret. Like, that's not to say that you that the actions were okay or whatever you did, but you need to find a sense of a bit of compassion for yourself and understanding, and often coming to that younger part of yourself is a good way to do that. Because it's pretty much always a younger part of yourself that is like, I'm at a 2, what about me? And I've had enough of this.
And all of the stuff that we're sharing comes from a paradigm of no one's to blame. It's not like, well, if one person's not to blame, then someone else might be. It's a paradigm of everybody has valid needs, and they're all trying to get them met in the best way possible, and we're all working together in that. So you're coming from, you're not coming to yourself or your child from a place of, well, I'm the one to blame, I'm the one who screwed up.
Or you're to blame.
Or
Either way.
There's one of my favourite quotes is that Rumi quote, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there's a field and I'll meet you there. So that field is what we're talking about being in.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
Yeah.
No one's right, no one's wrong, you're not wrong. You're not apologising from a place of being wrong, but from a place of, I didn't express my needs in the best way possible and I want to repair that, but it doesn't mean you're wrong, it doesn't mean you're to blame. And that paradigm, that field, is such a powerful place to be in with your children, not just because it creates more authentic connection, but also because it models to your children that whole new way of thinking. We don't have to be either or, right or wrong, good or bad. There's something else we can all be in.
Yeah, and that at the basis of conflict is someone's needs, or possibly several people's needs, not being met.
And it's often several people's multiple needs, so that's often why it can feel complex.
Yeah. So inner work first. Connect to yourself. Find out what's moving and needing, what's moving in you, what you're feeling, what you're needing. Offer yourself some sense of compassion and forgiveness to yourself, even if you're like, wow, I really wish I hadn't done that, or I feel really bad about that. There is still a part of you. The part of you that feels really bad needs some love. You know, I hear that. Yeah, it's okay, sweetie. We'll fix it. It's okay, you know. And find out what the need is underneath there. Often when we don't have any space, especially as single parents or parents that are soloing for a period of time, it might be that you just had no room to catch your breath, you know. Find out what the need is that's sitting there, because it's totally valid, and it's an important piece to bring to the solution, not necessarily in words to your child, although you could, depends on the age of your child, but certainly in your solution on how you move forwards from this moment after the...
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the inner work, yeah? Alright, so let's assume that you found a little bit of, I'm not going to lie, you're probably still feeling pretty bad, but you found some sense of compassion, and you've stepped at least outside the paradigm of blame, shame and guilt. We've talked about blame, shame and guilt before. These are the paradigms that have been passed generationally through our entire culture for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years to create control. And so we're trying to control ourselves in this instance through blame, shaming and guilting ourselves. It actually does not work. It makes us feel crappy. So let go of that. You don't need blame, shame and guilt to tell you that's not how you didn't want to, that's not how you wanted to show up.
It doesn't make your apology any less powerful. It actually, like, yeah, it's more powerful when you don't come from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we thought we'd talk about the next step. So when you've got a bit of a breath, reconnected, you're probably going to want to do an apology, an authentic apology. And we are kind of assuming that the people who are watching our videos are of the paradigm that a parent does not need to be perfect, doesn't need to look perfect in the eyes of their children, that they can admit when they screw up.
Yeah.
Which is important. What we think it is. But there is a lot of people out there who believe you can't ever look, you always have to look like the authority figure, you know. And it's actually a very, very old leadership myth that you've always got to look like the authority and like you know everything and that you can't admit you were wrong. So we're going on the assumption that we've all moved past that and that it's valuable for our children to see us as whole people who can screw up and who can own it and who can apologize and who can move on and all of those pieces. So, authentic apology.
Yeah, so it's very much just as you're not blaming yourself, you're not blaming them. Yeah. So when you want to come to the apology from a place of real self-connection, because I've found that sometimes if I'm still a bit triggered and I think, oh yeah, I've connected and I'm okay, I'm ready, then I go to the apology and I'm sharing like, I'm really sorry, this is what I did, this is kind of what was going on for me, and I shared it like this, and I get that wouldn't have supported you, but then I start kind of getting into a bit of defense and
but and because.
Yeah, but you did this and you did that, and it becomes more of an attack.
Not even the but, even the because. Like you could say, I was feeling really stretched because you were blah, 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 blah. Like, but or because, don't bring them into the apology.
That actually reminds me something else we forgot to say with the inner work, actually, is after connecting with what you're feeling and needing, it's actually really helpful for your apology to also tune into and guess at, be curious at what might be going on for your child.
For them, yeah.
So that when you're sharing with them, you can share what's going on for you and what you think might be going on for them, rather than the actions they did. And so you're going with what's underneath.
Yeah. The most important thing about an authentic apology is, what is your intention in this moment? This is like a foundational question. You've heard us say it, because coming back to our intentions allows us to move forwards from a place of alignment. And in the case of an apology, what is your intention? And your intention is to recreate or repair connection. That's what you're trying to do. So remember, that's your intention. Your second intention in an apology is to take 100% responsibility for your stuff. Hello to everyone joining. Say hi if you want to.
And we'll keep saying it. Responsibility is different to blame. It's completely different.
Yeah.
Responsibility is empowering. It's my feelings and my needs are mine.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't use but or because. That's not the time and place for that. When you're doing your apology, it's about you. Own your side of things and speak from the I. So, hi Stephanie. Good evening. So own your stuff and speak from the I. So I was feeling, I was needing, I did this, I wish I hadn't done that, I wish I'd done this differently, those sorts of things. Is there any other wording?
Yeah, and I'm guessing it might have been like this for you, like you might have been feeling, you might have been needing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm guessing that you might have felt like this when I did that, like those sorts of things. Just own 100% your side. No ands, no buts, no because. Well, and it's okay, but not but and because.
Yeah. And then, like, kind of really wanting to hear them and check that it's landed. Like, does that feel true for you? Or what's it like to have to receive what I've said? Like, what age appropriate, whatever you want to say.
Generally, if you just stop speaking, they'll say something or do something. What you do not want to have in your mindset is, now it's their turn. Now I've done mine, now you do yours.
Now they need to apologise.
Yeah. Don't have any expectations. This is not about them. This is about you just owning your piece. And then pause. Just wait and see how that lands. If your child is open to it, I would never suggest that you push this on them, but if they're open to it, I would consider adding physical touch to your apology as well. If they're open to having a cuddle or a hug or whatever it is, add that. It brings another extra level to your apology. But not if they're really like not wanting to and they're stiff and they're like, get away from me. Then just use your words. So in that pause, basically you've owned your stuff, which is the key piece here. And don't have the expectation for any particular outcome. But often your children children are typically way more forgiving than adults, naturally. They move past their stuff a lot faster. They're likely to respond with empathy quite often. And sometimes they do just spontaneously say, and I'm sorry for what their part is. And that, I mean, children quite young can do that, but even my daughter, I can think of a recent example. She had been at a sleepover, and I hadn't yet seen her, and she wanted to have another sleepover, like, because there was some people getting together, blah, blah, blah. And I said, we were doing this on text, by the way, and I said, no, I want you to come home tonight. I haven't seen you for a couple of days. And she got really angry at me. She said, oh, you don't care about me, blah, 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 blah. And then, which did hurt. And then about 2 minutes after that, I got another text from her, and it just said, I'm really sorry about that. I said stuff I didn't mean. Boom. So your children can really own their stuff really easily too. Really easily too. And she added, I was just disappointed. Like, she did add how she was feeling in all of that. And she's 12, so you know. But children can do that from quite a young age. And when you do those apologies over and over, you give them the opportunity to see what that looks like for 100% responsibility, just owning your stuff, without making it someone's fault, my fault, your fault, anyone's blame.
Expectations of what the other needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember your intention to reconnect and to repair.
And something else I want to bring in, because the question was also connected to, especially if you don't really have much support around you. And I can really relate to that. Sometimes a big part of the need is I am just so stretched and I'm not coping.
Yeah.
And I would really emphasize, because we need people around us and we need to be heard, and not only do we need to kind of hear our own needs and have empathy for ourselves, we are such relational beings, we often need others to really have empathy for us and hear us, and we can't rely on our children to do all of that. It's probably not good to rely on them to do it at all, but then they have a bit more space to be able to do it because there's not so much pressure there. So I would recommend really finding, often it's really helpful to find other mothers. Like we find that this is some of the biggest part of all the work that we do, all the communities that we create, the circles we create, the sisterhood is so important.
Yeah. And even one other mother. So in our world we call them a sanctuary sister. One other mother, someone that you can truly go to and just share without feeling judged, no fear.
And also without them like jumping into
fix or advise.
Yeah.
It's not what
See, this is what you need, or this is what your child needs, or you should have done it like this. It's just, your needs matter. I hear you.
Yeah. You need to be able to go and speak your truth and unload it all, and have someone willing to hear it and go, I hear that, honey. I get it.
In some parenting philosophies, it's also called a listening partnership. Like, it's so important.
Yeah. It's truly, truly, really important. And all of our offerings and things we put out there have some form of this, where we create the systems for this to exist, because it's super important for mothers. Yeah. And after all of that's happened, what was the need underneath that was sitting there? Because that need cannot be ignored. So just like after you've apologized, sometimes even before, sometimes you need to do it before you can apologize. But what was the need? Don't ignore the need that you discovered was sitting underneath it or driving your behavior. Okay, so take some time to explore that. And sometimes it is space, and sometimes you're on your own with young children. That can be really tough. Look creatively for space. It might be that you take a deep breath, you feel, okay, I don't love TV, but I'm going to let them watch their DVD, and I'm going to sit on the couch here behind them, and I'm just going to read or close my eyes or whatever it is that you need. Like, look for ways to meet that need as best you can, because that need is really important. If you don't meet it, then it's likely to come back and bite you in the butt again and make you feel crappy again. So it's not like this is an optional piece. It's really important if you want to move on fully. Is that it? I think that's it.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's it. So that was a question that we received. We're receiving questions, and we are going to do lives on all of them. So if you've got an issue you want to bring to the table, and we answer them anonymously, I just read out the question. So definitely let us know. Please, we'd love some more. We've got tons of teaching topics, but it's better for us if we actually know that we're serving our community the way that they need to be served. So if you have a question, go for it. And time is so close to our workshop on Saturday now, which is a free workshop. Free workshop on YouTube Live. We haven't done this technology before. I got to confess, I'm kind of nervous.
We need to.
Because there's hundreds and hundreds of women signed up for it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a little bit scared about that. But it's going to be a really amazing workshop. It's a workshop we've done before in private settings. Super powerful. The feedback's been amazing. And so we're gifting it to all of you. And the link is above in the description here. Just click on it and register to get sent all the stuff you need, the workbook and the details on how you connect on Saturday, Friday night.
For Europe and
Friday afternoon for
North
America. Yeah. We would love to see you there. It's going to be all about reclaiming yourself in motherhood and parenting from your truth. It's really about coming back within and understanding where your true power and your true freedom lies as a mother. And it's not outside of yourself. Little hint
and
there.
very much bringing your needs and your child's needs into a really holistic experience of connected conscious parenting.
Absolutely.
Relationships.
The workshop does have some teaching in it, but also a lot of tools that we're giving you, a guided experience, so you get to experience the tools on the workshop and get feedback from us while you're going through it. You bring something that's up for you at the moment, an issue that you'd like to work on, to the workshop, and you can go through the entire guided process around that issue. At the end of this, you come out with a really clear step forwards for yourself personally, plus all the tools and stuff, but we wanted to try and get across that personal piece for you so it really has effective meaning and you can implement something, not just have theory in your head.
Yes.
I think that's it for today.
I'll see you there.
Bye-bye.